mean, that's engaging. You gotta strike while the air is hot.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't. You've probably never gotten more profile in your life.
Did you ever see a promote, like, you know, like selling something, egg on my face?
How many followers did you gain?
Oh,
Or
I
lose?
gained like 20.
That's it?
I had like, I haven't checked this morning.
That's awesome.
It was like the 3 million views and like 12 followers. It was so.
folks, we're going to let the senators get in, and we're going to talk about last night's results and go from there. We'll open it up for questions afterwards. So, Senator Lopez Francis, take it away.
Thank you. Good morning, Minnesotans, and thank you for joining us today. I am so happy. I am so tired, but this is a good day, and my colleagues and I are celebrating with our Senate DFL caucus for a Minnesota Senate miracle. I have to say, when I joined the Senate in 2012 and we had the trifecta, I did not know what that meant. I flipped the district in Senate District 49 in Edina, Bloomington, Eden Prairie, Minnetonka. And had you told me then that I'd be here 10 years later as a leader of our caucus doing another trifecta in a midterm election, I would have said you were joking. But here we are. And we're not joking. This is a real business and the real lives of Minnesotans. And they have spoken. They have told us and mandated us to work. And we have a slim majority of 1 seat. And thanks to Greater Minnesota, who is also sticking with us Democrats, and we're going to deliver for them and deliver for all parts of the Minnesota state, from top to bottom, west to east. We are going to do the work that we were told to do. People want us to be measured. People deserve us to have results for them. And in the last 6 years of my minority status in the caucus, we have seen a lot of work that has been left behind, a lot of Minnesotans and a lot of families being left behind. And we have an opportunity right now to change that with a governor, a House, and a Senate that will work together, because we can and because we will, and we will get things done that we know Minnesotans want. And we'll get to work right away. And there's a lot on the docket. I'm sure you all know that we have had our agenda in the Senate DFL to help families, to support families, working families, to support healthcare, to support our kids and our youngest learners, to fund education, to fund healthcare, to do our infrastructure projects that we can do to transform our state. We have that opportunity today, and I'm so proud to be with this group of legislators. It's not all of them. It was a long night, as you all know. You had already left, so we weren't able to talk to you at 2 or 3 in the morning when we found out that 1 seat, which is, it's very ironic, that is the seat that was for former Senator Doug Johnson, who that was our key. So it's meaningful in an interesting way of what we need to do, keep the legacy of hard work across our state, and make sure that we pass the baton. And I am not going to be passing, I'm not going to be part of this caucus as of tomorrow in a leadership capacity, but I'm going to be rooting for my team. And that is my job. And I want to say thank you to all the staffers. All of our staff has been tremendous. My legislative assistant, Jess Jagane, she doesn't get the credit she deserves, neither does my husband. But these are the people that prop us up, that do the work with us behind the scenes. But you're going to hear directly from one in particular who's been spearheading this effort as our staff and key to warrior champion Megan Hondo, who's our director for our campaign. But again, I have to say, this is a good news. I heard from Jeremy Miller this morning, a few hours ago, and we were friends, we're colleagues, and he conceded, and he was very graceful about it. And we're going to have to work together. This is about our state. This is not about one person, one party. This is about Minnesota, and one Minnesota is what we're going to be leading into. I will also say, as a point of personal privilege as a Puerto Riqueña, to be in this moment in Minnesota history is I want to be able to inspire other young Latinas and other young people of color to step up and do the work. Because if you show up, you can flip a Senate in a midterm election. You can never know what you can do. So keep those hopes, and I want to make sure that people all around our state know that this is your legislature. This is your House, your Senate, your governor, and we will listen to you. We will do the work, and it starts right now. So thank you for that. I will pass it on to Megan Hondo, and then we'll open it up for more questions. Oh, sorry.
It's okay.
Well, I didn't get the script, sorry. So I will pass it on to the other person who deserves a lot of the credit for this win as well, who's been working really hard, who was elected by our caucus to lead our campaign efforts. It was a team effort. There are so many people I can thank, and officially we have a co-chair for finance, Senator Dietzig and Senator Nick Frentz, but Senator Erin Murphy has been our chair of our campaign, has been around the state helping, supporting candidates just as much as so many other candidates, so many other of our legislators. She's been a glue as well for our Senate caucus in a campaign side, and you'll hear from her what it took to get to this moment. So with that, Senator Erin Murphy.
Good morning. It is a very, very good morning, I would say, a joyful morning. Minnesotans made clear with their votes that they chose us. They chose DFLers both to lead in the House and the Senate, Governor Walz. They chose a unified government, and we heard that choice. We earned that choice, and we're going to respond by leading. It is important to say right now that we are ready to lead and to make progress for the people of Minnesota. We are here today because countless people decided to run for office. Wonderful, strong, locally recognized leaders who, in the face of a real challenge, a challenge to our nation, a challenge in Minnesota, a challenge to our democracy. No worries. In the face of that challenge, they raised their hands and said, I'm going to run, because I believe in what we can accomplish together. And we are here today because of those candidates who worked in their districts, knocking on hundreds of thousands of doors, listening and talking about the things that are important to them. And they are going to come into this legislature prepared, committed, and ready to meet this moment for the people of Minnesota. I am very excited about the work that we're going to do in the future for the people of Minnesota. And I believe our caucus is committed to progress and want to put behind us the divisions, the fear-mongering, and the stalemate that has become endemic in the legislature, and replace that with thoughtful, forward-thinking, strong public policy and a budget that balances for Minnesotans. I cannot say enough about the leadership of Leader Lopez-Franson and the work that she did to pull our caucus together and to make sure that we were in a strong position to win this election. And she built on the work of Leader Kent, of Carrie Dietzig, of Leader Lopez-Franson, and our members, so many of them who participate in this campaign, many of them in leadership, including Senator Dietzig and Senator Frentz. We are committed to doing the work for the people of Minnesota. Today is a day to reflect, but to recognize that Minnesotans made a choice and we're ready to lead. And with that, I'll turn it to Megan Handel. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Megan Handel. I'm the campaign director for the Senate DFL caucus. I think some of you have been getting emails from me for quite a while. I took this job about a year and a half ago, and I've always known that we have a path. I've always been incredibly confident in the campaign that we built. I know some people, maybe even some of you, were a little bit skeptical of our path, but it was narrow and slim, and we knew that we had to run a strong and a very disciplined campaign, which is what we did. I really want to thank all of our incredible staff who have been working weekends and nights and day after day to make this happen. And I want to thank our candidates, especially the ones that didn't prevail, because no matter what districts they lived in, they knocked on so many doors and worked so hard, and they are part of the reason that we have this trifecta. I'm happy to answer any campaign-specific questions, and thank you.
Nice work, Megan.
Nice work, everybody. Senator Lopez-Franson, what do you think the issues were in the end, especially if you look at Simon and Walz top vote getters? Does that mean democracy and choice were the winning issues for you?
Well, I've hardly had a chance to analyze all of the information because we are just hours from our win, not even 24 hours. But I can tell you We've been all over the state. We've been hearing from Minnesotans, and they have talked about choice and reproductive rights as a big issue this election. So I would think that is one of the ones. I think the stalemate and the gridlock that we are seeing at the national level, people want leadership, and Minnesota is different. This is a place where people are measured. They gave us a trifecta with wider margins back in 2012. This one's slimmer. That tells us we need to be tempered, but it also tells us they want us to work together. And that is what you're going to see in the next 4 years from the Senate and with the House. So I would say those are some of the issues. Public safety, obviously, and we demonstrated that we were 100% behind doing something, not just leaving last session behind with nothing done, nothing to show for.
Senator, you just said, the tightness of this race says you need to be measured. Is that to say that some of your, more bold, progressive proposals, any senator can chime in here, are
They're staying, so I'm not.
That you're not going to consider them, or how are you, what do you mean by that?
Well, I mean, I'll start, and obviously other people who are staying in the caucus can chime in. I would say these are issues that we see nationwide. It is not an urban or rural issue when you talk about public safety. This is something that we know that we need to do for all Minnesotans, and I think that's what Democrats do. We want to lead for all Minnesotans, and we're not going to leave any part of our state behind. I would say, this is a budget year. It starts really close, and there's a few dollars on the sidelines already, so my colleagues are going to have to focus on the work ahead of passing a budget, and then hopefully be able to do some of the good stuff that they also send us to do. We talked on the campaign trail about paid family leave, about codifying Roe versus Wade. Those are things that you can probably assume are going to be on the docket at some point, but I'll let my colleagues elaborate more.
I think that it is important to remember that we have a new caucus with members-elect who have spent months and months and months talking with the people in their districts. And they are going to come into this legislature having earned a vote and made commitments to them. And our job is to make sure that we're making progress for the people of Minnesota on the issues that are going to matter for them and for our future. So I think rather than thinking about the ideological spectrum of center and left and right, we should be thinking about what we're doing to improve the lives of Minnesotans. And those of us who have spent this last year campaigning understand that Minnesotans are looking for progress, and that should be our measure. And that will be the measure of our success.
Senator Murphy, can I ask you just a quick follow-up question? There was obviously a budget bill that was left on the sidelines last May. I assume now you'll be starting from scratch in January. What does an all DFL state government mean for things like the Social Security, income tax, and other things that were in that bill and the governor was pushing for the $2,000 checks that were not in the bill? What does it mean for all of those things that are really important to Minnesotans?
Tom Hauser, we will, for the first time, convene together tomorrow. And that's where we begin to outline an agenda based on what we have come from the campaign trail and into the caucus. I know a lot of our candidates and a lot of our members supported the measures that you're talking about. A number of our candidates supported and campaigned on eliminating that Social Security tax. They talked about rebates. They talked about putting more money in the pockets of Minnesotans to help them with the cost of things. It would be premature for us to set that agenda here, but I know because I spent so much time with our candidates out in the field and so much time with them as they develop their own narrative and their own message, that those are issues that are important to them, and more importantly, they're important to Minnesotans. So I think that we will be starting anew, but the issues that are important to Minnesotans are going to be central to this budget discussion.
Education funding as well. Education funding, we have a lot about fully funding. Will we find out what that means?
I think, as I said before, we're going to meet for the first time tomorrow. We will start to outline that agenda. Public schools are important to people all across the state of Minnesota. Of course, that's going to be a part of our agenda.
Senator Murphy, are you going to seek the leadership position tomorrow?
You know, the questions about leadership are an internal discussion. I know there are other people that are interested. I won't say, but there are other people that are interested in that, and that is going to be an internal discussion that starts tomorrow, not for today.
Senator, can I ask you a question about last night? And Senator Rest, if you wanted to speak, I don't want to interrupt you.
I was just going to say, let's not forget that we elected and re-elected our governor and lieutenant governor. And we expect him and her to lead us and the House in putting together a budget, and we'll be working together in ways that we have not had the opportunity to do for the last 6 years. So we're going to look for the leadership to the governor to set the agenda. And just one comment generally is that I think last night, yesterday, Americans across this country indicated that they want a return to normalcy in the relationships between the two parties, and not the extremes, but the normalcy of compromise, of proposals, of discussions, of debate, and not the fear-mongering that has been mentioned, or the scare tactics. They said across the country, let's return to normal relationships between our parties and reject the others. Thank you for letting me say that.
Wait, guys,
Folks, we're going to go here, and we'll go there.
Senator Murphy or Megan, what was the moment last night that you saw a result in a specific district or somewhere where you went, oh my, this might happen?
Do you want me to answer?
Yes. Was there a race that you went, that's it?
Yeah, so one of the races the GOP was particularly excited about was Senate District 45, where they had Kathleen Folk running against Representative Kelly Morrison. And Kelly Morrison came out very early with a very, very solid lead. And that was one of those suburban races where choice was on the ballot, and it was a huge issue. We had an incredibly strong candidate, and when we saw the size of that margin, I certainly had a hit of optimism. I will also say Senate District 4, which is Moorhead, that's Senator Eakin's old seat, despite the fact that this is a seat where the numbers were trending away from us and President Biden did not prevail in 2020, we still had a very handed win with our phenomenal candidate, Rob Kupek, and that showed us that both the suburbs and greater Minnesota were going to hold for us.
Senator Francis? Follow up if I can, kind of on that, because choice was just mentioned in one of those key races. Do you know for sure if your new majority is fully pro-choice? Because we've had Senate DFL majorities before that were not pro-choice in Minnesota history.
Minnesotans elected a pro-choice majority in the Minnesota Senate.
Senator Lopez Franzen. Sure. Real quick, you talked to Leader Miller last night.
This morning.
Did the subject of potential public safety session come up, and have you gotten any indication from that from the governor's office yet?
I did speak with the governor a little earlier before this conference, and there are talks, so I think it wouldn't surprise me.
Is that something you think will happen?
Maybe. We didn't think this would happen, and it happened, so. Well, I know.
Senator, what's next for you?
I have a lot of thank you notes in the back of my car. I have been honored to be in the Minnesota Senate, as you all know, too. I wasn't ready to, move on to something else, but life happens, and I'm looking forward to whatever that is. I'll be teaching at the Humphrey, one class with former Senator Steve Kelly. So.
But another run? Are you done with politics? Do you want to?
I don't think I'm done, but I don't know in what form or shape I'll come back. So we'll see. I'll work with my friends to keep them in office.
We have time for about 2 or 3 more questions.
Senator teaches us that when you guys take control of all the chambers, the biggest challenge in several months will probably be finding agreement amongst yourselves. Can you talk about that challenge ahead and somebody other than the outgoing majority leader, maybe?
She's been around.
Hi, my name is Carrie Dietzig, and I have the honor and privilege to represent Senate District 60. I haven't slept, so I really wasn't prepared to answer questions. But I was here in 2012 and when we had the trifecta, and, we had a lot of really good conversations, and, we have, like every family, we have where we agree and where we disagree, and I think we're just going to spend the next few months in our caucus. We'll start tomorrow figuring out what we need, what we heard from in all the districts across the state and what they want us to do, and then I think we'll have the conversation with the House and with the governor, and we'll come to an agreement of what we think is best for Minnesotans.
Senator Murphy.
Hold on 1 second.
Senator Murphy.
And do you-
Wait, you know, the last trifecta you had in 2012, some people might attribute that to overreach by the Republicans when they had the legislature and passed the marriage amendment. How do you keep that from happening again? How do you keep from losing this?
As I started, Minnesotans made a choice in this election. They chose a unified government. They chose the DFL. And we are ready to lead on the issues that are important to them and to their communities. And when we keep Minnesotans front and center in the work that we're doing, we will be doing right by Minnesotans. And that's our path.
Yeah, with the slim majority you guys have, do you think marijuana legalization is something we could see next year, or are you gonna have to kind of be a little bit more measured on the issue?
You know, we are going to get together for the first time tomorrow to begin to talk about the agenda, but it is important to remember that legalization of cannabis is a popular issue across the state.
All right, we have time for one more question, and then we'll hear from Senator.
I talked to several Republican operatives last night, and they were very envious of the DFL Get Out the Vote effort. Can you flesh that out? Was it, you know, you couldn't door knock during the pandemic, you can door knock now? What are some real-life examples of how this Get Out the Vote thing works?
Yeah, so we were, as a Senate DFL campaign caucus, we knocked on over 500,000 doors this cycle, and just in the last handful of days, we knocked on over 40,000 doors. This happened because we have phenomenal candidates that we recruited both on the Senate level and on the House level. There were a lot of volunteers that were excited to talk to voters because they knew what was at stake. This also happens when the doors you go to are good and they're really strong. So the volunteers want to come back because they're having really good and solid conversations with potential voters. And so that was a big part of it. There was also some notable things. We were really pleased with the turnout in Senate District 2. There's 3 reservations in that district, and that's worth noting. The other thing I will note is that our senators put in a lot of effort into their own districts. They knocked in competitive districts, and then they went home and knocked in their own districts, and that helped statewide turnout a lot, too.
And then just to follow up, the 30 million or so that the party devoted to GOTV, how much of a luxury is that? What does it allow you to do that maybe the Republicans can't do?
You know, I think this cycle there was a big strategy both on the independent expenditure side when it comes to paid communications, and we took some risks and tried new strategies, and that helps a lot with just general turnout and GOTV. On that other side, what it does is it pays a lot of really incredible field organizers around the entire state to communicate with volunteers and to create plans to get volunteers out on the doors. So a lot of it just went into the people power, and that's something that you can't just buy. You have to have a movement that's incredibly strong, and that's what we had this cycle on our campaigns.
All right, we're going on, and I'll
Real
go
quick
Senator.
question. A lot of our stories in the last 2 years ended with passed the House but has yet to receive a hearing in the Senate. Can you give us an example of a bill that you expect to be heard in the Senate that's not been heard in the last 2 years?
Price gouging, paid family leave, the PRO Act, legalizing marijuana, ERA. There is a long list, and election reforms. There is a long list, and there is a lot of work we have to do. And, you know, to the point about we are a big family and we will have disagreements, some of that comes out through hearings, through actually talking about the issues and making sure that not just amongst ourselves, but we're also letting Minnesotans know. So as we come together for the first time as a caucus and start setting our agenda, we'll be having those conversations internally, but we also want to have them with the people of Minnesota. That is critical to us leading with the people of Minnesota who sent us here. So expect to see more of that.
Thank you, everybody.
Senator Kent is going to close for us.
Susan Kent, State Senator in Woodbury for now. And I want to thank you all. This has been just an incredible journey. And listening to my colleagues speak and reflecting on these past 10 years when I came in with Leader Franzen, when we were freshmen, we heard often that freshmen are seen and not heard. And not only is that incredibly disrespectful to people who work really hard to get elected by their communities, it's also very disrespectful to the people we represent. And one of the things that this caucus is really doing, and I think you've really seen and heard it from everybody, is listening. We are listening to all our members, which means we are hearing from all corners of our state, because this caucus represents Minneapolis, St. Paul, suburbs, and communities around greater Minnesota. So it is about a fundamental change. It is about empowering our members. It is about thereby empowering our communities so that we can reflect their needs and use that to improve the lives of Minnesotans, which is ultimately the goal of the Senate DFL.
Maybe one more quick question. We can talk about diversity, because the Senate lost a lot of diversity, but also gained and made history last night. Can somebody quickly address that?
I'll just say really quickly, because I was looking at this morning, I believe there are only 3 women in the Senate Republican caucus now. And that is really disturbing. And no people of color, and we currently have 5 members of our posse caucus, and I believe, I did a rough look, I think it's 9 now. So, again, it's about reflecting the communities that make up Minnesota. And the House is obviously, House DFL has already brought that in, and it's really exciting to see that kind of leadership happening in the Senate as well.
Sure. Oh, sure. I am actually really super excited about the candidates that are now going to be representing, especially our candidates of color. Because when we look across Minnesota and we recognize the fact that we are becoming a more diverse state, but if you look at the GOP, they don't have the reflection of their communities. And so the fact that we now have a number of African women, African American women, and others that are representing the communities that represent Minnesota, I think that brings a stronger, a richer, a more beautiful diversity to our state, and it's going to help break down some of those misunderstandings and the issues around racial disparities are going to be addressed, because we can all speak to those directly. We have those life experiences. We have family that have experienced, immigration and redlining and racial issues. And so it's going to allow us to really understand our state and our community much better, and it makes for a richer conversation.
All right, thank you all for coming on.
Great answer.
Thank you.